Landing gear is looking rather pretty, except for the fact that I'm not sure if I should be doping over the metal or not. This is the attempt for me that I've never tried to actually. I'm going to end up spraying this entire airplane with butyrate dope. Well, I'm not quite sure if butyrate will just stick right on down to down the metal or not. I'm not sure if that'll happen. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the nitrate to stick to the aluminum, trying to give the butyrates something to cling to, and it seems it's hardening up the wooden block in the middle, and the holes came out pretty. After if you saw where I did that, I filled them in with Bondo, and I went ahead and I worked a screwdriver in there, and I slowly got my screws back out. So that came out looking nice and clean and pretty. I think that'll look good. So I'm still playing with the nitrate situation, and I probably just keep going with that until I feel satisfied with the fact, and then I'll just go ahead and leave it up to the final coats again. I got to start thinking about wheel pants too if I'm going to start going ahead and doping and filling the wheel pants. Might as well get them going as well. While you got the nitrate out, you might as well, or the dope out, you might as well go ahead and you got the brush out, you might as well try and cover everything you can. You know, after all, you're making a mess and you're filling a house full of fumes and shit. Try and keep a window open, but don't get the temperature. If the temperature drops down too low with butyrate dope, either too high, it'll start drying too quick on you and ball up on the brush, which it was doing yesterday. And then again, if it gets too cold, it'll do the same thing. So that's why you're better off not to dope and soak your airplane. What a pain in the ass. Right, here I am contemplating about putting this upper canopy on. I don't think it's going to be that difficult. It's just that you start really making some real final decisions once this thing goes on there. I'm not sure how sturdy it'll be after it's on. I'm sure it'll stiffen up a little bit. It shouldn't be so floppy. There's a couple of things that you really need to look into before you actually start thinking about this. You want to make sure, remember, I got all of my servo trays are done, my switch on the side's done, my fuel tank's in, I have my clearances between all my servos. My tail is already, see how that's going to work out now that the tail is basically finished. All I need to do is do some final filler touch-ups and doing the body fairing back here. See, that's why I really didn't worry about that fabric problem on the top of this, because the fairing's going to cover right over that. You do want to make sure, get this thing, per the print, your cockpit is so far back from the firewall, so that's your dimension that pretty much sets it up. And then the tail was cut out to accommodate. And you want to make sure also get a nice clean straight edge forward of the rudder hinge point so your rudder isn't interfered with at all. Matter of fact, you don't even want that canopy to cut into your fabric hinge. You want to kind of get that back just a touch, just enough to make a difference. And same with the elevators. When you do your elevator situation here, you want to make sure this corner right in here, as your elevator moves, you don't want it interfering with that as well. If we're going to go for the canopy, I think I'll just have to get the gumption and the balls enough to do it. I'm going to sit down and think just a little bit more before I go for it, but if I'm going to do it, I'm ready. I went ahead, I did a mock-up right now. Yeah, I thought I heard the phone. If I can find my little thingamajig here, my little pointer. It's what I meant for my thingamajig. Anyway, what we got is we got a mock-up. It's mocked up. That is where I believe I want it to sit. That is where I think it should sit. So I've gone around it. Haven't cranked on it. This thing it's not preloaded in any way. You don't want to preload it down. If it's got any waves in the bottom, make sure they're true. If they're not too far out of whack, they'll get filled in. I went around and did T-pins, make sure there's no wrinkles, no slack. The masking tape is just holding it down tautly. It's not cranking it down. So it's kind of basically just laying on there exactly where I want it. Make sure, trial fit your cabanes again. Make sure your cabanes are going to fit in there after you glue it down. Maybe I should, matter of fact, nah, no big. I was going to say, you get too sloppy with the glue, you don't want to end up filling your cabane holes in that upper deck. I did all the fuel proofing under the deck. So I believe I am ready. That it is mocked up. Maybe I'll give myself a couple of reference lines. But what I'm really shooting for is trying to keep it flush with the front firewall. I noticed for some reason I have a slight overlap on one side and not the other. But I'll worry about that after it's down because I can just trim that back down flush. I did do some lines around the canopy there with pencil. Don't use pen. Pen, I guess, will end up bleeding through your paint job. Go ahead and just do a light line around there and tell yourself where your canopy is sitting on there. But I'm not going to glue that. What I'm going to do, if I do this, I'm going to go around and do the deck. I'm going to get this thing sitting where I want it, and I'm going to go up to a point. I decided to go to a point on the fin, but then I'm going to stop because I don't want to have, I'm going to use 15-minute epoxy. You might want to consider 30. The fact is that I'm more worried about my downward pressure right now than I would be back here. Back here I'd end up playing with some things. I might find some things curing up on me before I actually get it completely down. And that way I can pay more attention to that when I get to it. And I'm going to go to a point so I feel as though I can go ahead and peel this back, 5-minute epoxy it, and then stick it back on there and glue it down, and then I'll call that good. But I'll keep a sideward pressure on that and keep that where I want that. So we're going to like do this canopy in a two-piece scenario. I'm more worried about getting it flat down on the deck, get the cabanes and everything where I feel as though shit should be, and then worry about that tail end. And I think it's going to come out pretty. So next time you see this, either I've had the guts enough to do it, or you might be seeing me doing something else. Maybe I'll go to a wing. I'll think about this a little more. Here we are, what, about 3-4 hours later. Still haven't done a damn thing. But still sitting on day 66, and I just sat down and start watching the forward portions of this building project. I started on the 11th, and I noticed I skipped right over the fuselage. I built the fuselage in like 14 hours. Fuselage went together fairly quickly. Skipped right over that. What else did I skip over? Not that I really skipped over anything. I noticed the scanner in the background a lot, interfered with a lot. Nothing I can do about that now. You can hear it in the background now. I believe I'm ready to go ahead and do this canopy. What the hell? Let's go for it. And if we're wrong, then we'll note that on the video. I'm here to tell you, I sat down, I got really hooked into watching the forward portions of this video, I have come a long way. For this being day 66, I've really come a long way on this model. Did a lot of work, man. I'm actually surprised or impressed with the fact that I've come this far. I don't know how long this model would have took me if we remained at work. I mean, I haven't worked on this continuously 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. Some days get once, maybe an hour. Sometimes you skip a week. But I'm here to tell you, man, this is 66 days here, and I'm just putting the canopy on, and I'm coming to a close. All rigs are complete. That's rigs are complete. And all I have to do is get this upper canopy on. Hey, man, we're about to start working with wings here and that, and this model's just about to go together. If I keep going like this, I might be right down to color. Right down to covering it by the time we go back to work. So let's just keep following it. Okay, good morning. Day 67. And we're still sitting at the tables. It's 5 days now, so we are still talking. Hopefully they're not just talking fishing. Here's the upper canopy. It is installed. I'm still working on a little bit of gluing. Gonna finish gluing in the back, gluing in the front. Well, gluing in the front. Still got to do the back around here. And I'm doing a bead of CA down the sides. I want to make sure that this thing's anchored. One thing I have to keep in mind, going to have to come up with some different glue scenarios for doing the canopy on the Bonanza, because I installed this canopy last night with 5-minute epoxy, or actually 15 minutes. But it didn't fill all the gaps. And then you're going to do some sanding on it, so me, myself, I want to make sure this thing is on there good. So I'm putting some beads of CA down it. But anyway, you can't do that with the Bonanza glass. Now, if you throw a bead of CA down it, you're going to haze your glass something fierce. So I'm probably going to have to come up with some other way of filling up some gaps. This is permanently installed. I didn't think I'd get to this point, really. This is one of the things that was scaring me the most. I don't know why. I guess one of the situations now is the fact that okay, now if you can see this edge, I have this edge all the way down the sides. So now I can actually go around this and sand this, or sand this here, so the fuselage now meets the same contour as that upper canopy. That's the idea behind it. I notice I do have a couple of waves in this body. It's kind of a bummer. It's probably more noticeable to me than it is the camera, but right in through this area, somehow I got a dip right across the line. It's not like nothing major, I don't think. I don't think. I could possibly knock this loose and knock this back out. Maybe I just ran another bead of CA down it, of course, so now it's even on there better. So if I go to try and knock that out now, I'm probably going to cause a world of hurt. Let's try it. Glued on there too good. Not going to just break that loose. So I guess when I get down to fine tuning it, maybe I'll hit that spot with a little bit of body filler and it'll kind of like go away. This kind of stuff used to really bother me, and I'd probably end up trying to get that dent out. But after you see a couple of these models hit the ground and shit, you realize that all that time you wasted on that fine detailing really don't matter when it's laying on the ground. So, here, let me give you a good example. Well, when I drilled my Trainer 60 in the safety fence out there, I mean, that was a pretty emotional moment. if you look at this one, here's the bottom of the wing for the Easy Fly 40. You can see it's got patches all over it. That's from crashing and burning in the blackberry brush. So you can see blackberry will tear that. That's a type of monocoat. See, it's all wrinkly. I got those wrinkles out a couple of times and they just come back. There's not much you can do with it, except for just trying to shrink it out and, you know, I'll just live with it. But you can see all the patches all over it. Now, if I dump my Trainer 60 out in a brush, which I've done, all it does is poke little pinholes. It doesn't just, blackberry brush grabs hold of this stuff and opens it just like a razor knife, but it doesn't do that Trainer 60 fabric or coverall or whatever. So that's why you're going with a fabric. It makes it stiffer. Right? We got one of the tail sides are done. This side is done. Pretty much glued on there. I notice after the fact that I'm going to, I'll probably end up shaving this down and give it the illusion of flowing right back into the rudder. I'm not going to leave that step right there. So I'll probably end up doing a little body work, and then there's some body work to be done around there. Basically how I did it is I went around and masked around that piece on the stabilizer and around the fan and the stabilizer, all the way around the periphery around that, and 5-minute epoxy, and just stuck it right back down there, and it was stuck. Make sure that you cover your aileron hookup. I don't know why I keep calling this aileron. I guess I really got hooked on the ailerons there for a while in the video, didn't I? By the way, I still haven't cut those out. Cover your elevator hookups when you're doing this. You don't want to end up getting a drip of 5-minute epoxy into your linkages, and then when you come back to it, all of a sudden you find out your elevators have been glued. Boy, would that just piss you off. So don't do that. And all I did was just pop this open, 5-minute epoxy, and stick that back down there. Now I'm going to show you the reason why we're doing the canopy now. That's so late. This is why. Better give you a pulled back view. Up here is pulled back as far as you can go. Now try and do any work on that. Try and do any work on the back side. See, now you got to mess with this, man. And that becomes a bummer, because the more you do that, the more you end up causing damage to the canopy. So now that I've got this done, I'm going to have to make myself a styrofoam cradle. And I'll just take one of these pieces of styrofoam I'm laying on right now, just cut it up, and I'll just make myself a neat little saddle. It'll probably become a major project, but it'll be cuter and shit by the time I get done with it. Maybe I'll do that now that I need it. I guess, no, I'll finish that other side, the side piece there of the upper canopy, and then I'll go ahead and I'll make a cradle out of styrofoam. That's all. We are a few hours later, still on, what, day 67? Notice I'm saying the days a lot lately. I'll make sure I get the dates on this one, boy. Upper canopy is on, complete. I have not fine-tuned it yet, but it's on. I ain't going to be able to take it back off. And here's my temporary cradle set up. I took one of my styrofoam sheets and cut it up to size and glued it in the lid of the box, and I got a temporary cradle set up, and I tried to make it a little bit universal so it wasn't just for this plane. When I get the Bonanza going, I should be able to flip the Bonanza over. That was the idea anyway. It's all styrofoam, you can just easily cut it, or I can just make another one for the Bonanza. But here's one attempt at a saddle to get it up off of the table on its back. I'm not sure what we're going to move on to, but You'll find out next time.